Hey everybody, Juan here. Today we're gonna check once again a dashboard from Vijayalakshmi. If you check my other videos, you're gonna see that this is not the first time I check some of her work, and just by what you're seeing on screen, I can tell you she has improved quite a lot. In today's video, I'm gonna make sure to add some topics and some tips, and I hope that everybody watching this can learn from this. So first things first, this is a basketball dashboard. It has here color coded that Jordan is always red and LeBron is always yellow. And you can see that topic throughout the dashboard. Which brings me to my first point, and that is right here the title. It says who's the GOAT, and the title is red. Was this on purpose, or is it kind of like a spoiler saying that it's indeed Jordan, because Jordan is the one that represents the color red? So if it was kind of like a spoiler, that's fine, but if not, just it's always good to know that you have to be careful when you color code a lot of things. Good, moving on. We have this visualization right here. Let me just duplicate it so that I don't break it, even though this is a local copy, so it's not a big deal. Now what you see right here is that it has the two players, but it looks like they didn't play on the same time. Like Jordan played a lot earlier. This is, by the way, not a big problem. You could visualize it this way. But maybe an interesting way of comparing it would be to use the formula index. So I'm just gonna move season group to the details. The index, I have to configure it, and that might seem a bit scary, but that's not a problem. So I'm clicking here on specific dimensions, add players, add seasons, and restart every players. Now I think I just broke the comments and some of the original features in this visualization, but it's just to show you right here that now instead of having the actual year or the season in which they were playing, now this makes it a bit nicer to compare, because we have, maybe I can just remove, we have right here their first year, their second year, and so on. So I'm not saying that this is necessarily a much better thing for this particular plot, but just so you know, using index might be a very interesting solution. Okay, moving on, let's go back to the dashboard. Yes, I noticed right here in the career stats, it looks like there are a lot of little things here in a bar chart, but here is my problem with this visualization in particular, and that is, firstly, I don't really know too much what is this. I'm not a basketball person, so probably it is worth to change the alias into something that it's a bit more readable for a person. Like let me check. I really don't know what any of these ones are, but sure, 3 points, right? This one I do know. Just to let you know that you can change the alias at any moment. It doesn't really affect your measures, but how they're displayed anytime you use them in a visualization. Now the second thing about this one, besides the labels, is a lot of these things are on different scales, right? I don't know how fair it is to compare different measures in one. What I like doing for these cases is turn this into a table. So I'm gonna, I should have kept the measure names in here. Maybe the players, I can keep them. And instead of a bar, I want to see this as text. Some more enhancements. I'm gonna add, put this into the center, and maybe you can just go crazy here, right? Like make the measure values significantly bigger or make them bold or whatever it is. But the point is, I think using sometimes the numbers, displaying the actual numbers, might be a bit more fair for a comparison than actually having bar charts that display different things. Good. One last tip that I noticed that might be interesting is when I was looking at this visualization, I figured, well, there are already quite a lot of line charts and quite a lot of bar charts. Why not experimenting a little bit, right? So I figured what type of visualizations we could build here. I'm personally a big fan of jitter plots, and I think a jitter plot might be something interesting for this particular one. So I'm gonna remove for a second the points right here. I'm gonna click and create a formula called random. Random just suddenly assigns a value from 0 to 1 to every single point, and you will see exactly where I'm going for. I'm gonna click on this as a dimension, and now I have two options. I either want to break this down into something, I don't know, what do I have here, like let's just say date, and then I have plenty of little points. This is per year, of course. How about per week number? Maybe let's get rid of the labels. And you kind of have like a fish tank. No, or at least that's what I like to think. You could also just say, okay, let's turn the average points into a dimension, and all of a sudden you have the data on its most granular level. Now, some enhancements that you can still do to this one is to remove some of the lines, like particularly the 0 lines. I also like to remove these lines right here. Right click on random, hide the header, also hide it from the tooltip. And maybe we can also, I don't know, would player look better here? No, not necessarily. Also, I like to add an average line in here, so that people have some sort of reference, like, okay, so the average of Jordan during the playoffs, what's the highest, and in general the averages of LeBron are slightly lower. You can of course also add some sort of box plot if you like that. A lot of people generally don't like adding the box plots, but you get the idea. You can also take this to another level by changing this line. So I'm gonna click on edit, gonna make it striped, gonna make it a bit less visible, and in the label of the line I'm gonna create a custom label, which is gonna include the field name, so the average, and the value. So there you have it. You have quite a neat thing. Of course, we can always work, and just the fact that some of them are red and some of them are yellow makes it that we have to change quite a lot of things. I also probably should change the formatting of that number in case you want to see it a bit differently. I always forget, but it's from one of these ones that you can just change this number and make it more concrete. And for the last tip that I wanted to show you is right here, the screen size. So I noticed that you're using a custom size. In this case, you're using a range, which is quite interesting. So for those of you that are not aware, you can change the size of your dashboard. And if you select the option called range, it will kind of adapt a little bit to your screens. There is also this option to click on automatic, which would immediately fit into the page. My experience from building dashboards, the conservative approach might be the best option. So I personally almost always use a fixed size and then go for one of the most common sizes like generic desktop. It's one that tends to work quite a lot. And now at least this dashboard looks much smaller compared to my screen. And that's not a problem, because to be honest, the reason my screen looks so zoomed out is because this dashboard was a bit big for the screen. Now, I could go for hours on what might be a good criteria when it comes to deciding the size of a certain screen. But I think going for something small that you're gonna be sure that it's gonna fit in most screens, it's quite a nice approach. Because of the size that the dashboard had before, I really just had to change the system preferences of my computer. Let me just change them to normal. No, this is normally how I like to see my computer, so it looks a bit better. So yeah, let's conclude that unless you have a very specific audience in mind, like it has to be consumed on a tablet or it has to be in a massive screen, going for a conservative size, it's better. Because otherwise the people checking your dashboard might have to make the zoom of their screen much smaller, which is what I did. Let's wrap it up, not to make this video much longer. Where is the dashboard? Yes, right here. So let's wrap it up. First things first, comparing using bar charts on data that doesn't have the same scale might lead to some unfair comparisons. I will go definitely in your case here for the career stats for something maybe more like, I think numbers might work. 2, if you want to compare things from 2 different starting dates, which was the case that we saw here, that they played on different times, the index formula manages to make sure that both lines start from the same point. And that can be great for this type of comparisons. I also show you how to make a jitter plot. Gave you some thoughts on the screen. And also, what I also mentioned is be very careful with color encoding. Because if you're using something in your dashboard that means something, in this case is the color red, reusing that same color somewhere else for a different meaning might be a bit confusing. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Bye.